I've seen guys in locker rooms who have signed for over $100 million, and they're some of the most miserable people you've been around. Yet I've also been in Nigeria with people who were living in the village with probably no more than a couple t-shirts to their name.
And they're the happiest.
Yeah.
Most people spend their whole lives chasing success. My next guest reached the pinnacle of what success should have looked like for him, a multi-million-dollar NFL contract, and something was missing.
We chase money, we put money at the center, but money was never meant to be at the center. Like with this podcast, I doubt you were like, hey, you know what? I'm going to get this podcast so I can make the most money ever. Maybe that's a piece of it, but it's also like, man, I want to be able to build a brand, to build a platform, share people's stories. I want to be able to...
Sam Acho is a 9-year NFL veteran, ESPN analyst, MBA graduate, best-selling author, and lifelong humanitarian. I know you've said that you've watched a lot of athletes lose everything financially after their careers end. What are the biggest mistakes you see, and what should they be doing differently?
The biggest mistakes I see are people living in...
You signed what should have been the biggest moment of your career, a multi-million-dollar NFL contract, and you say something was missing. What was going on inside you? What was actually missing?
Such a good question.
Sam Acho, welcome to Business MVP.
Thanks so much, Sammy. I'm so glad to be here.
Sam, let's start with that moment, the one that I think defines everything about who you are today. You signed what should have been the biggest moment of your career, a multi-million-dollar NFL contract, and you say something was missing. So take me back there. What was going on inside you? What was actually missing? What did that moment teach you about what success really looks like?
Well, Sam, first of all, I'm so glad to be on with you and even to be going back and reliving some of these moments. My background is in sports in a lot of ways. So I grew up in Dallas. I played at the University of Texas, went to a national championship, got drafted to the NFL, played 4 years for the Cardinals, 4 years with the Bears, 1 year with Tampa Bay. So a 9-year career. And in football and in sports, it's a lot about achievement. Man, who's getting the next contract or the next sack or the next touchdown? And so though my purpose isn't necessarily just to achieve, I don't think anyone's is only to achieve, I got caught up in, man, I want to get that next big contract.
Right.
And I think maybe the best thing or the worst thing happened is I did. I put everything aside. I said, I'm going to go get that contract. And by the grace of God, I got the contract, but it didn't provide me with the sense of fulfillment, joy, or peace that I was looking for. I wasn't necessarily looking for the contract or the money. It was really the sense of, man, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing and doing it at a high level and also impacting the people around me? And so I'd gotten one of those pieces right. I had the football piece right, but also there's another piece where it comes to family, when it comes to faith, when it comes to finances, when it comes to purpose. All the other stuff was thrown out the window. And it just reminded me that we're not one-dimensional. And so I got so caught up in getting that next big deal, I forgot about, man, how do I be like, when my friend says, man, like he's a basketball coach, he said, man, we want to be faithful husbands, loving fathers. Like, how do I love my kids well? Right? How do I lead my wife well? How do I be a good friend? Like all that stuff was kind of like, no, it's about the contract. And I realized that it wasn't.
I love that. Yeah, I've actually heard you talk about the 4 F's before, and I love that. I want to share it again. It's faith. I think you said faith, family, football, and finances, which I love. And we have lots of entrepreneurs and business people out there listening. So those are the good 4 F's for people to take away. So I love that. So before we get to kind of where you are exactly today, take me back to your football career. You got your MBA while playing in the NFL. A lot of people don't know that, which is insane. You were a 2-time Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. So you were clearly building something bigger than a football career from the very beginning. So tell us about that and, what drove that?
What drove that part of me was really realizing that football wasn't the only thing that made me who I am. Oftentimes when we focus on our careers, I was this way. It's like I grew up, academics it means important to me, right? I could tell you pi to the 14th decimal. I could recite Shakespeare, right? That's kind of was my thing. And then all of a sudden I ended up being like 6'3", 260, and I was like pretty good at football. So then all these other opportunities opened up. And so I wanted to really develop not just my physical capital, like physically, big, fast, strong, but intellectually. That's why I went back and got my MBA. I wanted to really realize, I wanted to just try to be more than just what people saw or people's thoughts were of football players. Sometimes you see a football player and it's like, oh, this guy's a dumb jock. I'm like, no, we're not all dumb jocks. Like, you know what I mean? And sometimes you see people who are getting their MBAs or leading businesses. Oh, this guy's a nerd. Or it's like, no, I have another side to me. And so for me, it was just this it was and still is this lifelong journey of not necessarily discovery, but of discovering purpose, right? Why am I on this earth? And why are you on this earth? It's got to be more than just a paycheck or the next follower on social media.
Yeah, that's interesting. I kind of want to build on that. I mean, a way around that almost to me is what you're saying is like being one dimensional isn't great, right? So even if you're excelling in your career and that's all you're focusing on, or you're excelling in football and that's all you're focusing on, then you're super one dimensional, right? So having other passions and pursuing them outside of your one thing is it's a healthier way to be in terms of your full, the full picture of who you are, which I love that because I think people forget that, right? When they're super focused on their career and they kind of let everything else go. But then, as you said, when you achieve where you're trying to get in that one thing, such as your career, it might not feel as great as you hoped it would, right? So without all those other things. So I think that's super important for people to take away. I read that your parents played a big role in your life. So how did that shape you, and how did that make you think about performance and leadership as you moved your way through the NFL and then afterwards?
Yeah, so my parents' story is a huge part of mine as well. They were both born and raised in Nigeria, and they grew up in a place where life was just hard. And so for them, education was that way out. Education was the way to be able to try to like make a way. When they came to America, I was born here, but my
Right.
oldest sister was born in Virginia because my dad had initially moved there to go to school, then moved down to Texas. And education was huge, but I saw them not only like work and go to school and, be academically strong, but faith played a huge part in our family as well. Every night we're praying as a family. Every weekend, we're at church on Sunday, church on Wednesday. My dad was helping lead and build a church, but it wasn't just what you see on Sundays or these sermons. They were living it out every single day. And so for me, watching them live out that example of, man, this is what it's like for a husband to love a wife, or a mom to respect her husband, or the parents to love their kids and the discipline. Like it was very, very clear. And so we
Mm-hmm.
weren't guessing when it came to what hard work looks like. We weren't guessing when it came to what sacrifice looked like. I mean, every summer they'd go to Nigeria for 2 weeks. They dropped my dad as a doctor in mental health. He's a marriage counselor. He would shut down his private practice and bring my mom and other doctors, nurses, surgeons, and they'd go to Nigeria
Amazing.
and do free medical care. Yeah. So for me, seeing them sacrifice that was a lot.
You were so lucky to have such amazing role models. That's amazing. And I definitely want to talk about that a little more as we go. So we will. Okay, so I want to pivot a little bit. Walking away from the NFL is something most players struggle with deeply. So what was that moment like for you? And how did you know it was time? And I kind of want to, for our listeners, maybe they're obviously not walking away from the NFL, but people are often retiring. They're trying to figure out what's next. So I want to hear from you, how did you know? For you retired and you immediately stepped into a full second act. So, I want to hear, what was that moment like for you? How did you know it was time? And then maybe we'll talk about what did that first year after football actually look like for you?
That's such a good question. I was
Thanks.
going on my 9th year in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And for the first time in my life, the year before, I'd gotten released. I had this injury. I tore my pec, right? So I
Oh,
was out for the season. I couldn't play. It was 1 year into that 2-year contract. I got
okay.
released. So I was still training, figuring out what was next. So I got fired, right? For the first time, I got fired, right?
Oh, no.
And then so I know, I was like, what do I do? I'm used to being at the pinnacle, right? In the MVP.
Right.
And I ended up signing with the Buffalo Bills. And I was in with the Bills during training camp, which is like before they do final roster cuts, where they're trying to
Mm-hmm.
figure out who's on the team. And we had a preseason game, and it was the day of the game. We had a night game. And earlier in the day, I was in the hotel just hanging out and watching something on TV, just like an ESPN special about this young girl who had this illness or some condition
Mm-hmm.
where her bones would break very easily. Middle school age girl, kind of like high school, middle school. And it wasn't just the condition, but people on her campus, it was a school in London, they were bullying her.
Oh,
So
man.
much so that they'd push her on the playground, she'd
Mm.
fall, they'd laugh, they'd leave, and she couldn't get up. And I
Horrible.
remember seeing that, and it's cruel. But I remember seeing that. This is hours before I'm supposed to go play a game and show the world. And I was in tears, Sammy.
Hmm.
I was weeping. And I did not know where these emotions came from. And I remember this, like almost like this righteous anger of like, man, something's got to be done. And I remember calling one of my friends, like an advisor, a mentor of mine, and I was like, dude, I don't know what's going on. Like usually I'm locked in for the game, but like all I can think
Right.
about is this girl, and I don't even want to play this game. Like I don't know what's going
Oh
on.
no.
And he looked at me on the phone. He's like, hey man, well, how about you just retire? And at that point, I was like, retire? Like I didn't even think that was an option.
Hmm.
Like for me, it was like, this is what you do. But
Right.
it was that point in which, number one, moments where I'm supposed to be going to play this game and show what I can do and earn my role, like something else is going on in my heart. And then secondly, when he said, how about you just retire? It wasn't this immediate no. It was I haven't thought about that, but I'd like to think about that more. And so that was really that moment. It wasn't necessarily retire. It was like, hey, you could retire, or maybe you could just play for a different reason. And so that's when the wheels started turning in my mind of, hey, and at that point, I'm 29, 30 years old. I don't know how, 29 or so years old, 30 years
So
old.
young,
Like, I'm
yeah.
like, man, there's so much more I could do in life. And so that's when it really
Right.
started at that moment in the hotel when I was playing with the Buffalo Bills, getting ready to go play in my last preseason in the NFL.
Got it. That's interesting. I love that. So you're now at AWM Capital, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So you're helping athletes build multi-generational wealth. So for the business leaders and entrepreneurs listening, why does building multi-generational wealth matter beyond the bank account? And what should they be thinking about that most people aren't?
Oh, that's so good. Well, so yes, I'm a family office advisor at the Athlete Family Office, AWM Capital. And one thing we talk about is we want to help build multi-generational, wealthy, flourishing families. All those words matter. Multi-generational. Why does it matter? If you've gained a lot of wealth, whether it's in business or in sport or whatever, I believe that we're meant to be stewards of that wealth. Like
Mm-hmm.
we are a steward, almost like this podcast. Man, you're a steward of this podcast. It's you and it's your name and it's your brand.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like it's something you're trying to steward really well. Same thing with our money, your businesses. Man, you've got a chance to work really hard and you've built the business and you've done the thing. But are you doing it just to waste it away? Or are you doing it to be a good steward of it, right? A steward for the next generation, right? That's your children or their children or the people who come behind you, multi-generational. Oftentimes, I think 1 out of 10 families that ever make over, the word people use ultra wealthy, right? Over $30 million in net worth. Like it only makes it to the third generation 1 out of 10 times. And
Interesting.
oftentimes the reason it doesn't make it to that third generation is it's not because of bad investments, it's because of family dynamics. So that family piece matters a lot. So
Right.
multi-generational, right? You've built the wealth, but also flourishing is a thing that I think people forget about. We chase money, we put money at the center, but money was never meant to be at the center. Like with this podcast, Sam, I'm not sure, like we're just getting a chance to meet each other now, but I doubt you were like, hey, you know what? I'm going to get this podcast so I can make the most money ever. It's like,
Right.
well,
No.
maybe that's a piece of it, but it's also
Right.
like, man, I want to be able to build a brand, to build a platform, share people's
You got it.
stories. I want to be able to leave a legacy. Same thing with football. No one got into football saying, I'm going to only play football so I can be a multimillionaire, whatever. No, like the reason you got really good at that thing is because you loved it. There was a passion behind it. And then like the passion, that purpose was at the center. Then some of these other things come, the money, the success, sometimes fame. And so the flourishing piece people forget about because they get the money, but all of a sudden marriages fail, right? Or they get the money, all of a sudden, like they don't know their kids. They get the money, and all of a sudden relationships are broken. And so what I care about a lot is, because I've seen it. I've seen guys in locker rooms who have signed, for over $100 million, and they're some of the most miserable people you've been around. Yet I've
Right.
also been in Nigeria with people who were living in the village with probably no more than a couple T-shirts to their name,
And they're
and
the
they have more
happiest.
joy than you could ever imagine. Yeah,
Yeah, I experienced that there. Yeah, that's interesting.
really.
I've
Hold
experienced
on,
there.
tell me
Yeah,
more.
I will. I
I
think
got to hear
we'll get
about
there.
this.
Yeah, no, we'll get there in a
All
minute for
right.
sure. I want to just finish on this though, just a little bit, because I know you've said that you've watched a lot of athletes lose everything financially after their careers end. So just to kind of hit this home, what are the biggest mistakes you see, and what should they be doing differently? Because I think that can apply to people that aren't athletes too, right? That have, come into a lot of wealth. So like, what are the biggest mistakes that you see?
Some of the biggest mistakes I see are trying to put everything in a silo, like living in silos rather than systems. What do I mean by that? I get a chance to run a podcast as well. It's not just me, there's a team behind me. I have people who are helping produce it and edit it and publish it and all these things, right? I have a partner who a co-host. If I try to do it by myself, I may not be as successful. I may miss something or I may, overlook something. And so I think with our wealth, it's very similar. We gain the wealth and we're like, okay, I did it on my own. I'm going to manage it on my own. But just because you're good at making money doesn't mean you're good at keeping it,
Right.
right? It may be wise to have people around you who are experts in their field, but also who are
Mm-hmm.
looking at it in the same way that you are. Like, what are your goals and your priorities, not theirs, right? Not how they
Mm-hmm.
can build up their brand, no, what are your goals? And so having a team of people that are experts in their field to be able to almost be this advisory board for you that lives in not in a silo of like, okay, well, that person's there and this person's there and I got this person, but none of them are talking. No, like if you're able to, and this is some business leaders are able to have all these people on the team to actually sit on the same side of the table as you and be under one roof. It's almost like trying to build a house. It's like you might have this great grand vision for this custom home, but you need like a general contractor to make sure that all the people are doing what they say they're going to do. And if someone's trying to, sell you a certain kind of like blind that's not the best one, or maybe, hey, they're trying to like, they have a certain kind of door that's probably not going to last very long, but it makes their door company a lot of money. That probably doesn't align to your goals. And so the biggest mistakes I see are people living in silos and saying, I'm going to try to figure out on my own and not living in systems. And then secondly, not having a team of people that see the world in the same way that they do. And it's not like, a lot of this language is foreign to us, right? You go to school, I got my MBA, I was a business major, I'm in the honors program, right? Nowhere was I actually learning about how taxes work, like really,
I
right?
hear you. I did
Nowhere
the
was
same
I,
in law school. Yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so like, you need people who are sitting on the same side, who are like, I would say like individualized and almost customized to your needs.
Yeah. I mean, I think we talk a lot about this in my business world, but it's surrounding yourself with the right people, that you can trust, but that are going to give you honest feedback. Right. And I love how you said silos, not systems. That's a great takeaway. And I totally get what you're saying about not learning. You learn like the subjects and the academics in school, but it's that real life application that, that people miss. I felt the same way about law school. It's like, you learn all the stuff, but then how do you actually practice, right? How do you actually apply it? So, and I think it's the same in business, right? Like you can know all the things, but actually executing and thinking of it correctly they're two different things. So I love that. What's the hardest business decision you've had to make in your, I guess, second career, if you will? And then did anything from your NFL background shape how you handled it? Like, has that shaped how you think about things, how you deal with conflict or hard decisions?
Yeah, such a good question. I think one of the hardest ones is actually what I'm even thinking through right now. So I'm in the wealth management space. We work with families in baseball and golf and football, but also we're realizing that there are a lot of athletes, collegiate athletes, now even high school
Mm-hmm.
athletes in that name, image, and
Yep.
likeness space
Yep.
that need some
Yep.
guidance.
They
Like they
do.
just need guidance, and I've lived it, right? I played in the NFL, played at high level college. I was a part of the NFL Players Association. So I was negotiating. I was the vice president. I negotiated the collective bargaining agreement with Roger Goodell and Jerry Jones and all these owners
Oh,
of the
I
teams,
saw that. That's pretty
right?
awesome. Yeah.
It
Amazing.
was awesome. It was challenging and I learned so much. And so, even negotiated my own contract my last year or so in the NFL. So I've seen that negotiating side. And I'm realizing that there are these young athletes that do need some guidance. And
Yep.
so as much as I'm like, hey, you gotta, there's a certain level of wealth to build, if you want to build generational wealth, that maybe you might not be there yet, but I'm realizing like, man, some of these guys are like, they do need that guidance. And
Yeah.
so little by little, I am stepping in and having conversations and even speaking up on behalf of these athletes in NIL and advising them because I think it's something that's needed. But one potential issue or caveat, especially if I start doing it more when it goes to like the NFL space, is there could be other NFL agents that are seeing what I'm doing and saying, well, hold on, are you on the agent side or are you on the advising side? Hold on, are you an ally? Are you a competitor?
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually like, I'm actually here to serve, like our goal, my goal is to be the most trusted advisor in an athlete's life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Marketing was my major. We always talked about find a need and fill it. And so I'm seeing a need, I'm helping and serve that need. And so, but it's also this fine line because people, can be territorial and things like that. And so I'm learning, okay, how do I give great advice, be a great ally, like serve the athlete, but also make sure that the people who I am currently partnering with and having conversations with understand that, hey, I'm on the same side of the table as well.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important. I've been looking at a lot of the NIL stories too, just on here, and it's kind of thinking of them as like startup entrepreneurs, right? And I think the thing that people don't get is you sort of have to think about what your long-term goals are and then sort of reverse engineer back. What's the 5-year goal? What's the 10-year goal? And then figure out how you're going to get there. Because otherwise, I think it's so hard to get caught up in the short side of things, right? Or even just in how you spend your money, right? Like, yeah, I'm going to go spend all this money, but I actually wanted to have all this money saved for my kids, or just like you described, the multi-generational thing. And, they don't know how to get there. So it's totally needed in the NIL space. And I think for everybody, right? This is a challenge, but I love that you pointed that out. So thank you for that. So for the entrepreneurs and business leaders listening, what is the single most important lesson from your athletic career that translates directly into building a successful business?
This is something I heard from a coach of mine. He's a Super Bowl winning coach. His name is Vic Fangio. He was the defensive coordinator for the Eagles and was my defensive coordinator in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
He would always say that little things done well make big things happen. Little things done well make big things happen. Entrepreneurs, leaders, like they want big things to happen. We want big things
Mm-hmm.
to happen. And we forget that the way to do the big thing is by starting off with the little thing and doing that little
Yep.
thing really, really, really well. I mean, there's so many stories I'm thinking about, even in ESPN, where I did little things well and those led to big things. Even in the
Mm-hmm.
NFL, where I did little things well and they led to big things. That we talked earlier about this jack of all trades, right? Jack of all trades, master of none. But there's another piece of that quote that it's heard that it said that a jack of all trades, but a master of none is oftentimes better than a master of one. Now, mind you, there's some historical context to figure out, okay, where does that, is that accurate and all these things? But man,
Mm-hmm.
there is a benefit in doing a lot of things, sure. But if you're not doing them well, how far will that actually take you?
Yeah.
Little things done well, big things happen.
Yeah. To piggyback on that, there's a quote that I always think of, which is be so good they can't ignore you. Right? And do all the little things so great that they can't ignore you. Right? I love that. There's actually a great book. Have you ever read Good to Great?
Oh, I think
You read that one?
I'm not sure. Yeah,
That's
I'm not
a
sure,
good one, but it kind of touches on what you're talking about. If people out there listening haven't read that one, that's a great one. So I guess, what do athletes and entrepreneurs not understand yet about what it actually costs to chase success without a foundation of purpose? I know you've talked about that a little bit, but what does that cost you, right? Like, if you don't have purpose and these other things, is it, that they lose sight of everything else, or it's just that they get to where they're trying to go, but it doesn't feel great, or what is having that foundation and purpose kind of like at the background of everything you do? What is that? How does that change people's trajectory?
It's so easy chasing the thing, and it's so easy getting caught up in thinking that that thing will give us success. And in all reality, our life is more than just about things. There's a guy named Solomon who, this guy, people say he's the wisest man to ever live, right? He wrote this book in the Bible called Ecclesiastes.
Mm-hmm.
And in it, he talks about 4 things that life is all about. He says one of those things is, man, like feasting with friends. Like life is about spending time with people who you love, right? That's a huge piece of life.
Mm-hmm.
A second thing that life's about is like loving the wife of your youth, or like your partner, like finding somebody who you love really, really well and like doing life with them. Another piece is sharing your stuff, right? Like life is about not just taking everything you can get, but sharing and giving. And that fourth thing that he talks about is finding work that you love. Now, in our society, we forget about the first 3. We focus on the fourth. Man, I found this work that I love and I've devoted my life to my work. But the problem is that is one way to potentially win, but also lose everything. You said, what does it cost an entrepreneur who just focuses on that one piece? It may cost them everything. It may cost them their marriage, may cost them their relationships, may cost them their relationships with their kids,
Mm-hmm.
may cost them purpose, right? Like that's if you only focus on the business side. But let's say you do like the sport, like for me, football or entrepreneur or whatever, you do that well. And let's say you do like family well. Man, I'm a good family man or good family woman, whatever. But like you don't have a faith foundation, like knowing where you're going to be, like when this life is over. Like if you don't have that figured out, I would argue that's not winning either. Let's say like the family piece is great, right? And the faith piece, yeah, I've got good faith and my business or football is great, but financially you've wasted your wealth, right? You've literally like wasted it and haven't stewarded it. I don't think that's success either. And so you said, what does it cost or what could it cost? If you're just focused on the next dollar, it could cost everything.
Yeah. No, I think that's really important. What habit or principle from your athletic career do you think every entrepreneur, athlete or not, should adopt immediately?
Oh, I would say the 24-hour rule. And what we had in football is so after a game, right, win or loss, like we had a 16-game season, now it's 17. You had 16 opportunities to show what you could do. And you might win, you might lose, but those are those 16 chances. Well, you have what we called it the 24-hour rule. We're not going to sulk on this loss for 3-4 days or celebrate the win. We have 24 hours. We're going to watch the film. We're going to see what we did well, see where we can get better, and then literally turn the page and move on. We're not going to get caught up in, I'm telling you, and from college to the NFL, the 24-hour rule. So like for the next 24 hours, I'm angry or I'm excited or man, I'm looking at how great I did. Then it's done, right? You move on to the next opponent. Because we always would say, don't let one game beat you twice.
Yep.
If you made one mistake last week, don't be so caught up in that you make that you don't even improve and you lose again.
Yeah, and I think that can be on the other way too, though, right? Like even on the success side, then you're not appreciating the next challenge or the next opponent, right? You think you've arrived, and that's never good, right?
Yes, agreed. Correct. So the 24-hour rule is what I would say for entrepreneurs. Hey, you had that great success, you IPO'd, whatever it is. All right, boom. Next page, what's next? How do we go attack the next thing?
I love that. That also just kind of keeps you moving, right? It keeps you from going stale.
Yeah, forgetting what we get so caught up in the past. Like forget the past, move on, focus on what's ahead.
Okay, so I'm really excited to talk about this with you. We already sort of touched on it a few times, but I'm really interested to hear what you're doing in Nigeria. So I actually had a similar experience last summer. I got to go to Malawi in Africa. It was my first time in Africa. And I was doing some work there through a board that I'm on called Love for Malawi. And around healthcare and education improvements. But I feel deeply connected to showing up, for a community that needs it. And you've talked a lot about that. So I know you've touched on it a little bit, and I read that you've been going to Nigeria since you were about 15. I think that's right. And your family's built a hospital there through, I think, Living Hope Christian Ministries. So tell us about that. I'm excited to hear about that and, what that's meant to you along the way.
That's so good. I wrote so my most recent book is called Change Starts With You. It actually tells a little bit of this story of not just about Nigeria, Sammy, but about what it means to live in and on purpose. What do I mean by that? So my mom
I love that.
grew up in Nigeria. My wife is from Nigeria. My dad grew up in Nigeria. And in Nigeria, you go to some of the villages, I'm sure maybe similar in Malawi.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these places don't have running water.
Right.
And
that was what my experience was.
Exactly. So some of the women from the village would get up early in the morning. They'd go to the stream, they'd fill up a bucket of water, they'd put that bucket on their head, they'd walk back a couple miles back to their home, right? The
Yep.
water wasn't clean. They'd boil that water so it could be clean. They'd let it cool
Yep.
down. They'd use that water for the rest of the day, and they'd repeat it day in
That's
and day out.
unbelievable. Yep.
But it's real. And that was their story. And all of a sudden, somebody saw something and said, what if we could do something about this? I'm sure you experienced some of this in Malawi. My dad, who lived in some of these villages, got a chance to, he fought in the war over there and all these things, came to America. He would go back. He's like, dude, this got to be a better way. Right? And so, yes, we do medical mission work. We go with doctors and nurses and surgeons and dentists, ophthalmologists, pharmacists, pediatricians. We give out free medical care. We share the gospel. It's amazing. But before that, it was like, dude, what if we could just make this a little bit easier for the people in this village? So we built a well. We dug a well.
Yep.
And that saved those miles and miles and days and hours by one person seeing a need, finding a need, and filling it. And so what I saw my parents do, my dad do initially, like this well, but that started as a well. Then all of a sudden it was this medical thing where he'd go back to Nigeria and check in on his friends and family and hear that one of his family members was in the hospital from like an insect bite that a trip to the Walgreens could cure. One of his friends had died from sickness because of water. It's like, what is going on? So we said, let's do something. And so they would go back every single year and serve. And that service came out of this compassion. I think there's a word in Hebrew, and I believe the word is rahamin. Rahamin. And it's kind of like this root word is this compassion, like this, almost like a mother in a womb, or like a baby in a womb, a mother protecting her baby in a womb. And so this idea of, I'm not just going to see something and turn my head, I'm going to go and do something. And I saw my parents do that. And that's why I get so excited about, yeah, sure, you go, we come back for 2 weeks. It's like, no, let's go build a hospital there. So now people could have care year round. They don't have to wait for us to come every year.
It's so important to give back. I mean, I experienced something really similar. We built a borehole in this town in Malawi, and similar thing with the water. And we just opened a maternity ward there because some of the women were walking, 9-10 miles in labor to get to the hospital. So similar experience, and it was really special. So I love that, and thank you for all you do there. That's amazing. Another amazing thing that you do, there's a lot of them, but another one that I read about was you founded Athletes for Justice. So for the business leaders listening who want to use their platform for something bigger, what does that actually look like in practice, and where do you start, right? Because I think a lot of people, they want to give back, they want to do something, but they don't know how to do that. They don't know where to start. So any advice there?
There's this life coach I get a chance to chat with from time to time, and he will say, what he said recently is, he said, hey, I know you're focused on all these different things, but he's like, every once in a while, just look down at your feet. And he says, be where your feet are. And
Ground.
like, it's ground.
Yep.
Like, start here. And so like for the business leader that says, hey, I want to go here and there. I want to go to Malawi. I want to go to Nigeria. I want to go. It's like, start wherever you are. There's a verse, like I'll go back biblically. It's in Jeremiah. And some people know the verse, like people have it on the walls or whatever. It's like, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans for you to prosper, not to harm you, give you a future and a hope, right? This idea of like, man, like God is awesome. He's going to take care of us. And I know some people have different faith backgrounds, but before that, number one, like that message from like this holy God was sent to people who were in exile, like people who were struggling, people who were like looking for hope. But a few verses before that, it says, hey, while you all are struggling or in exile or like in this hard season of life, I want you all to seek the welfare, seek the benefit of the community that I've sent you in to exile or to struggle or whatever. Because as you seek its benefit, you will find benefit. What do I mean by that? Where are my feet? Okay, my feet right here. Like when I played in Chicago. Man, I lived in Chicago, I played with the Bears. Man, there's so much going on in Chicago with people who need help, because I played in the NFL, I could actually help. And so, yes, I was still going to Nigeria, but also was going to some of the communities on the west side and south side of Chicago. Right back in COVID, George Floyd gets killed. COVID happened, sports are canceled, world is in chaos. And I remember calling up a local nonprofit leader saying, hey, what do y'all need? Like, I can protest, I can do this, I can do that. And she said, Sam, we just need, our kids and our community just need to be seen. I said, huh? I said, no, but I'm in the NFL. Like, I have money and I have fame. And I have... No. They need someone to simply sit with them and listen to them. And I was like, oh, well, I can do that. Shoot, anybody can do that. So all of a sudden, a bunch of these athletes got together from all these different teams in Chicago. We came where our feet were at and we sat, we listened, we let these kids express themselves, their young people express themselves. We expressed ourselves, sat down with police officers as well. They expressed themselves. All of a sudden, after we sat and listened, we actually took this tour. I talk about this in Change Starts With You. We took this tour we were on the west side of Chicago. And if you remember, right around that time, there was all these videos on TV of, looting and rioting and broken glass and all this stuff. And as we're there, yes, we did see broken glass. And yes, we did see, buildings that were boarded up. But we also saw a food desert. We saw a place in our community that had like one grocery store, and actually specifically it was two grocery stores and like 20 something liquor stores in like a 5-mile radius. And so we, football players, baseball, basketball, community members said, let's just do something. So we partnered with that community and we ended up building a food mart that the young people now run and manage. Awesome. It's called Austin Harvest. Yeah. And so it doesn't take anything majestic. It takes compassion, that rahamin, but it also takes realizing that, man, seek the welfare of the community you put into. When I played with the Arizona Cardinals, Larry Fitzgerald just got in the Hall of Fame. Every Tuesday, which was our off day, Fitz, we call him, was serving at a local homeless shelter. Didn't tell anybody. 6 a.m. or maybe 8 a.m., I don't know, he dropped his kid off at school, serve, or maybe he had his kids serve with him, 6 a.m., then he dropped him off every single week. And you wonder why he was a Hall of Famer on and off the field. Matt Forte played for the Chicago Bears, one of the greatest Bears to ever play.
Yep, know that name.
Every single week, you know the name. And it's not just because how great he was on the field, but it's also because what he did in the community that nobody saw. And so my encouragement or exhortation, I get excited about this for business leaders is that people talk about the triple bottom line, right? Like you can do well and do good, and that's great. But I would really encourage you to use your wealth for good.
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you said to start kind of locally, because that is super important. Sometimes we forget that. We think so grandiosely, it's like you forget what's around you. And I think you said something else that's really important is if you don't really know where to start, not only maybe starting locally is a good idea, but you just got to show up and listen, right? And then that kind of guides you as to what's needed and what you can do next for people, right? But if you don't show up and listen, then you might not even be addressing something that they actually need, right? And I think something else you actually said that made me think about this is when you talked about the Austin Harvest, like you have to have the community wherever you are, whether it's in Africa or, at home, the community has to buy in, right? Because it's not going to be successful then once you leave. So they have to buy in. So I think that's also really important. So part of that is that you have to be a good listener, right? And you have to hear what people are saying for them to buy into what you're trying to do. So I think that's really good advice wherever you are. So thank you for that. Last question, and this is how I end all my podcasts, just kind of a signature thing, but what does it mean to you to be a business MVP?
Servant. It means to be a servant. It means to put the needs of others ahead of my own. And that's not just in the business world, that's actually for my family as well. It means to sacrifice with rahamin, that compassion. It does mean to be an expert, not just to be average, right? It does mean, I could be a jack of a few trades, but I need to master these things.
You need to master something.
Right? The most valuable, you need to master something.
You do.
Right? How great, like you don't want to go to a doctor and then be like, well, I'm kind of like just okay at this surgery. It's like, no, I want the expert,
right?
And sometimes it just comes with believing that you are, right? Like I talked about the NIL space and it's like, dude, I've lived this. Making different decisions with colleges, negotiating contracts, negotiating with owners of teams. I've lived it, having conversations about being presidents of teams. I've lived it. And so sometimes it's just, Sammy, believing that you are meant to be, how do I say this? You are meant to be exactly where you are. right? It's like, oh, am I really the right person? Yes, you are. But I don't know if yes, still go. But what if even if you still do it? And so for me, being a business MVP really starts with belief, and then it continues with service, believing that you are supposed to serve your family, serve your friends, serve your community, serve the world.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Before we wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to share that I didn't ask you?
Well, first I want to say thank you for using your platform to continue to share people's stories, not just in the business world, but outside of it. Thank you for being a pro. I want to thank you for that.
Not
also,
a pro.
I want to, well, but you are where you're supposed to be.
Thanks.
So I want to say thank you for that. I also want to just encourage people too, because I'm like, man, as I'm on this journey, like, I want people to see that, hey, man, there is a way to gain the world and still keep your soul. There's a way to win without losing it all. And so whether it's on social media, it's just the Sam Acho, THE, and then my first name is SAMACHO. People can follow the journey there, samacho.com. I like to put out resources there for people to really learn, like, hey, there's a way. No, you're not perfect, but you can walk in purpose. And that's the journey that I'm on. And that's really, I want to encourage anyone listening that you don't have to be perfect, but keep on walking in purpose. Everybody, like, and specifically men. I don't know your listeners, but like, men, men need purpose. They need people they can trust.
I think everybody needs purpose, but I agree. Yeah.
Everybody. But also, a lot of these men we're sitting, a lot of these young men playing video games all day. It's like, come on, guys. Like, let's get off the video game and let's go out in the world, right? Men and women alike, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's super important. That's great advice, because I think too, just forget the video games, just everybody being so wrapped up in their phones and technology and screen time these days, right? Like, what is the purpose? So I think that's great advice. So we'll get that in there. Thank you very much. So yeah, thank you so much. It's been great. Sam Acho, everybody. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
And that's how champions think. Here are the key takeaways from my conversation with Sam today. Know your 4 F's. For Sam, it's faith, family, football, and finances. But the point is to build your life around what actually matters to you. The biggest mistake high performers make isn't failing, it's chasing success without ever defining what success actually means to them. And as we're hearing over and over on this show, don't wait for one chapter to end before you start building your second act. If you got value from today's episode, share it with someone who's ready to think bigger, compete harder, and win in business. Make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an episode. And if you haven't, leaving a 5-star review goes a long way in helping us grow and reach more leaders like you. You can also watch every episode on YouTube and follow along on Instagram and TikTok at Business MVP Podcast for more behind the scenes and insights. I'm Sammy Peterson. Thanks for being part of the Business MVP community. And I'll see you next time as we continue building you into an MVP in business and in life.